Hello there, how are you doing today? Today we are going to talk about Ubuntu 17.10. It was actually announced, I think, more than a week ago, but I was in Denmark attending DockerCon, so I was not able to talk about it. So I came back and I installed on a system. I installed it on Dell Precision 5270 and of course on my Dell XPS machine to test it out, and I have been playing with it for a while. It's a mixed experience, a mixed feeling, because I had been a Ubuntu user for a very long time. I After initially playing with Debian and Mantriva, I became a Ubuntu user, and I had been using Ubuntu ever since. From early days of my Linux journey. I switched from Ubuntu to OpenSUSE when the whole Unity and GNOME 3 happened, and I've been using Arch Linux and OpenSUSE ever since. And there are different reasons. One major reason is rolling release, because as a journalist and personally, I tend to use the latest packages. So first of all, I can write about it, and second, I personally believe in using the latest packages because they have more features, bug fixes, and a lot of other things. Anyway, that said, I was running Ubuntu on a virtual machine, so I was kind of aware of what is going on, and I run multiple distributions on my virtual system machine. That's why I have a big machine with a lot of RAM on it, so I can do multiple distributions there. But when I installed Ubuntu on this system and my Dell XPS 13, which Dell gave me for review, it was a refreshing kind of experience, because I was used to Unity interface on Ubuntu, and suddenly I get the GNOME experience. I use GNOME and Plasma with my OpenSUSE box, so I was expecting the same experience, but it was a bit different because some things are different, and you get that Ubuntu feel either way. The first thing first about this release is that with 17.10, Canonical has finally gone back to GNOME as the default desktop environment and the default shell. Though even during Unity days, GNOME was the desktop environment then that Ubuntu was using. It's just they were not using the shell, and they were doing some other either forking or patching with other GNOME components like system settings, I guess, so that to integrate it better with the rest of the operating system. So what you get is the default GNOME there, with I think some minor tweaking, and the first thing that you would notice is that all the controls have moved from the left side to the right side. That is one. Depending on whether you have used GNOME before or not, if you have been a Unity user all this while, you'll find a lot of good surprises there, and I think good surprises because that's a positive direction, because GNOME is quite mature. It has a very large user base. It has a very large developer base. So whatever they're building there is based on feedback, and they are doing some incredible job there. For example, they integrated Google Drive with Nautilus, or which is now called Files, whereas Google Drive is not available on Linux natively. So anyway, when I say Linux, I mean desktop Linux. So some of the things that you will notice is that the system settings option is as a list view now, instead of the old Mac-like view. Let's open it and see settings. So you get the whole list where you have wireless setting on the top, then Bluetooth, background, dock. I don't know what is dock. Okay, so dock is, you remember the dash when you click on the application launcher, the whole, or search for something, it opens. Auto hide the dock, and then notifications are there. Search is there, where you can take control over what kind of things you want to be indexed. But since nothing leaves local system other than I think when you're using an online service like calendar or whatever, it's kind of relatively safe. You can change language. Universal access, which is more for accessibility. Online account, this is cool about GNOME, is that you can integrate Google, Nextcloud, Facebook, Microsoft, Flickr, Pocket, Foursquare, Microsoft Exchange, and a media server, if you have any. I have not tried it. That would be interesting because I'll run a Plex server, so I'll try to see what kind of experience you get with that. And then of course privacy setting is there, where you can turn the screen lock on off, location setting turn on and off, so you can look at those things. Sharing is there. Now file sharing, I don't know what kind of sharing is it. Is it local network or you can share it with the internet? Because as I told earlier also, that I am a platform agnostic person. I prefer open source, but I use other platforms like Mac OS and Windows also, so that I am very well informed what's going on. So on Mac OS, for example, I can very easily share something through email. I can open a file manager and or whichever app I am in, I can very easily share things with other services. So I have to look at it and see whether it's the same feature or something else. Then you have sound, of course. You can manage your sound settings, power settings. Network is there, and devices, which has printer, keyboard, mouse and touchpad, display, removable moody vacuum tablet, and color I think color calibration, sorry. And then you have details, which has, so it's running, it has 64 gig of RAM, and so it's running GNOME 3.26.1. So that was the overview of system setting. Now the first hand, not the first hand, the first experience with the Ubuntu 17.10 was kind of mixed. And why was it mixed was that you look at this big giant screen, and I recall that last time when I was using Linux desktop, there was an option for scaling. So when I right click, or if I go to settings, I was able to scale from 1, 1.2, 3 or whatever it is, and it would adjust. Now what I see is that there is only actually I am not a huge fan of this list view, because you have the whole box here. So just give small icons instead of, anyway, that's their choice, so whatever they decide on. But I prefer the kind of things they have in Mac, where you see everything is right there. So 10 things that I use mostly: sound, screen resolution, Bluetooth devices, privacy. So everything is there. So I prefer the system settings of, or system preference of Mac OS, because very simplified. Everything that you need is there in front of you. Here is the long list, and I needed to change just the resolution. Initially I could not even find it because it was under devices. So I had no idea why would it be under devices. So I had to go to device and then go on display and then search for it. So you see it's like 100% right now. There's no 1, 2, 3 scale factor. I can do 200%, and 200% becomes more or less like this giant 4K 27-inch beautiful Dell display becomes like 1080p boring display. It's wastage of all the space. So I don't really understand the scaling factor that GNOME or Ubuntu, whoever is responsible for it, is offering. Resolution wise, I can just go from 4K all the way down to 2K, which once again defies the whole purpose of using this big monitor. And if I stay on 100%, things are so tiny that you cannot literally use it. You can see this is big beautiful screen, and suddenly it's a tiny display there, which is unusable. I cannot even use it. Things get worse when you're using something like LibreOffice. Let me open LibreOffice, and you can see this big giant screen, and the window to right is tiny. This is the window where you write, and when you write type something, the font is so tiny you may need a microscope to actually read it. So I don't really understand the scaling factor. High DPI has always been a weakness of Linux desktop, and it's still there. When I run Windows on the same machine, everything looks beautiful, gorgeous. I run OpenSUSE on it, and but I use it Plasma, and Plasma offers much more control over font and everything else. So but I used to like GNOME's is automatic scaling for display, but right now I'm disappointed. And I have not actually used GNOME for a very long time because I have been traveling extensively, and when I travel I bring my MacBook, and my MacBook, you know, is 4K display, but everything is super, I don't think it's 4K, but everything is so very well scaled on high DPI systems. uh, Same with application like GIMP or VLC, they don't scale very well. So that is one problem that I noticed when I was started using it. So when I open Firefox and try to open an app, a website, in the 100% view, the fonts are so small you cannot read anything. It's almost unusable, and only option is to make it 200%, and then this big display, 4K display, becomes 1K display, which defies the whole purpose. That is not one problem. Another problem is that while all the icons are up here on this big screen, the app launcher is down there, so I have to come all the way down to launch the applications. Why? When all the apps are there, just push the launcher up there, and then I can pin all the much needed apps next to it. So it's very easy, it's very user friendly. Go up there, launch the app, whatever you want, or, you know, pin the apps underneath it. So it's very, I have to come all the way down there, go up there, come down there, go up there. It's very frustrating. And same with the, no offenses, but the Windows, the buttons, you know, they move towards right. Once, no offense, once again, Mac, everything, this is the corner, magic corner in Mac. The system setting, I mean, the files and everything is in this corner. You can access the Mac, you know, start and everything from here. So that is why they pin everything here. So it's very easy to close and open the app from here. So your muscle memory or your center is here. I don't know why Linux is scattered desktop. When I say Linux, I don't mean Linux in general, I mean Linux desktop. They scatter everything across. So in this big table, I launch the app here, I close from here, and then start a new app here. Why? I don't understand. So I think from your UI point of view, I am not very happy, but I don't think that's the fault of Ubuntu. That's just, you know, in general, the direction that GNOME is taking, I guess. That is not the first problem I noticed. The second problem is that with this release, they said a very good hardware support. Now the problem is that this is a touch screen system. When I click something here, first of all, it opens the virtual keyboard, even if it knows that I am connected with the physical keyboard. Why you are opening a virtual keyboard when you see that the physical keyboard is connected and it's working? It should be smart enough. Second is that it doesn't work as a touch screen. It works as a mouse input. So when I, you know, scroll my finger, instead of scrolling the screen, it selects the text as if you are selecting text with mouse. So only way it works is the finger works as a mouse touch. So I can move the window around just the way I will move with the mouse, but I don't interact with the display as a touch screen. I cannot draw things here. Yes, I can draw as a mouse input, but not as a touch input that you would expect on Windows 10. That said, Dell sends this machine with Ubuntu pre-installed, and the experience that you get is the experience you want. Touch works flawlessly, pinch and zoom works, scrolling works, everything works flawlessly because they have added drivers for it. But when you install something else, some other Linux distribution, it won't work. So that's another, you know, bad experience that I had from Ubuntu, something I was not expecting. I would expect that from Arch Linux because you have to do everything, but with Ubuntu, I would have expected that the one of the most popular Linux systems, which is this Dell Precision 5270, it's a mouthful. Dell Precision 5270 all-in-one, which is the best. You know, I would say this is the best system that a Linux user can get. And your operating system doesn't even support this system. So please, Ubuntu developers, please, no people, fix these minor things. That's one of the reasons why people get frustrated with desktop Linux. Now, that was not the only problem. One more problem that I noticed with many of GNOME distributions is that, if you're a GNOME user, that without GNOME tweak tool, you won't get the experience that you want. At the same time, you also need a lot of extensions to kind of optimize the whole experience to your own needs. Unlike OpenSUSE, which comes with GNOME tweak tool, there was no tweak tool there, so I cannot tweak a lot of settings. I have not explored that much, but under tweak tools I can change the font settings, I can do a lot of things, but the tool is not installed. So the thing is, a new user would not even know about it. You have to do a lot of research to be able to use the distribution, which kind of defies the whole point of a user-friendly distribution. So I think that is another weakness there. Beyond that, I didn't see any other problem. One thing that I would kind of comment is that beyond the problem with the touch screen, every other hardware worked out of the box. It's funny because sometime when I run, I spent $20 to buy a Windows license so I can test on it, and Windows doesn't detect my Mac keyboard. With Linux, Magic Mouse, Magic Trackpad, Magic Keyboard, everything works out of the box. So I'm quite happy about that area. And another weakness that I feel with the desktop Linux is applications, because there are so many competing platforms. You have Debian based, you have Ubuntu based, you have RPM based distributions, and it kind of becomes challenging to get an application for not only the distribution but the version of the distribution you're running. And that's where I think Flatpak and Snaps can be great help. Sorry. With this release, they have further integrated Snap, so you can get a lot of Snap application for both GNOME and KDE, which also solves the problem of quicker access to latest applications. As I said, I like to use latest applications. With the Snaps, it's just like Mac or Windows Word. The moment the application is released, you can use it. I really don't understand why on Linux, you have to wait for weeks, months, or even year for that application to be in the repository when both the projects are open source. I mean, that's the whole point that the source is there already. They're working on it. Start integrating from the very early on. I mean, you have dedicated maintainers. What are they doing? But I think that's a topic for a different story. But I'm quite happy that Snap is there with this one. Beyond that, I think it's a great release because now you get the best of both worlds. Ubuntu is one of the rock solid. It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Fedora or OpenSUSE people, they may disagree, but it's a rock solid base as a distribution. And Unity was kind of which was destabilizing it, but now they have moved to GNOME, which is once again one of the two biggest desktop environments or projects out there. So you get the best of the best platform as an operating system, and then you get best of the best desktop experience on top of that. So it's like best of both worlds. So I think a lot of people will love this release. I was talking to Will Cook, who's the director of desktop for Canonical, and he was of opinion that this is the first release that comes with GNOME, and next year is going to be LTS. So with this release, they are trying to focus on ironing out all the wrinkles that are there, all the bugs and everything, all the problems that are there, so that the next release, which will be LTS release, is fully polished GNOME release for Ubuntu. What else do I want to talk about here? I think it's I mean, as I said, I have not played much with it because on Friday I'm flying out to Australia for OpenStack Summit. But whatever time I have spent on it, I have, as I said, mixed feelings, because I don't get the experience that I would want on this big beautiful system. I cannot, honestly speaking, I cannot use it. The reason is, if I put on 100% scaling, everything is too small. If I put 200 scaling, everything too big, which defies the whole point of it. So but if you're not on a high DPI system, or if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments below, then you will love this release. Everything else is beautiful here. All the design decisions that they have made, I'm not happy with that, but I don't see, or I don't think that GNOME or Ubuntu are going to change anything just because I disagree with it. But I think those are some of the very wrong design decisions that they have made, where they have scattered everything across the screen instead of, you know, focusing on thinking from a user's point of view, that okay, it's much more easier, you know, for a user's workflow if, you know, if you kind of concentrate on one area, so that people can access things easily. And beyond that, I think it's a great release. You should download it, test it on your system, and let me know what you think about it. And maybe I will revisit it again once I come back from OpenStack Summit, and then I'll check it out again and see how I feel. I will also be installing Pop! OS on it, and I'll see how Pop! OS works on this system as compared to Ubuntu. And I will also be running it on my Dell XPS, both systems, to see. I love this machine more because it has touch screen, it has beautiful gorgeous display, it has nice speakers. So I'm sorry, I need some water, I think. So when I'm working on my desk, I always use this system. When I'm traveling, I tend to, you know, or I'm not on in my room, then I tend to use the Dell XPS when I'm using Linux. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you want, you know, unbiased, honest, well-educated opinion about Linux and open source, no nonsense. And see you next time, most probably with the Pop! OS review. Thanks for watching. See you. Bye bye.